Welcome and welcome back to Grow Green with Vanessa. Today we are planting our blueberry plants. So I ordered the blueberry plants about a month ago. I expected them to be delivered next month, but they came yesterday. So today I'm going to get them potted up and put them into a grow tent downstairs in the basement until the weather dictates that I can bring them out. So they'll be inside for about a month or so until we can get past our last frosting. Blueberry bushes are self-pollinating, but you tend to get more blueberries if you cross-pollinate. So we have two different blueberry plants that we're planting. The first is a North Blue blueberry, and these are both patio varietals, so they will not grow to be very tall. I'll be able to keep them in the pot. The second is the North Country, and these are a perfect pair for one another as far as pollination is concerned. So the first thing we're going to do is to mix up our soil mixture. Blueberry plants require really well drainage. So the first thing I want to do is to provide adequate drainage in both of my planters. So I'll put 4 1/2-inch holes in the bottom of each planter. That should give us great drainage. Blueberry plants love acidic soil. So our mixture today is composed of 2 parts peat moss, 1 part pine bark, and I have the pine bark nuggets today, and 1 part compost. I am actually mixing my compost 50-50 with a compost manure and the other half mushroom compost. So let's get to mixing. So this is day 2. I started our our soil mix outside a couple days ago actually, and life got in the way, and so did a puppy, and turned things upside down. So today we are continuing on with getting our soil prepared for our blueberry plants. Now, in the meantime, since I have not been able to plant the blueberries, I have followed the instructions given to me by Stark Brothers. That is the company where I order the blueberry plants from. So I have kept them, opened them up as they have advised, and I'm keeping them moist. And I do have them under grow lights. So where we left off was putting our soil mixture together. The mixture that I've decided to use is 2 parts peat moss. Peat moss is very acidic, and that is what the blueberries need. So 2 parts peat moss, 1 part compost, and my compost will be composed of half part mushroom compost and half part manure compost. It's a manure mix, and I'll show, of course, I'll share that with you. And then 1 part pine bark. So far what I've mixed together is the peat moss portion in addition to the 2 compost. And I just wanted to mix it up well before adding in the bark, the pine bark. So that is what we're doing now, just kind of mixing it up. And the pots that I've decided to use are these pots here. So these blueberry bushes, they will go on our deck. I looked around for containers, and this is pretty much the best I could find. Am I particularly happy with using plastic in the garden? Not really, but I use it often enough. I don't want to get bogged down too much about plastics and plastic details and things like that, but you know, I always want to make sure that whatever I am choosing, whatever I am selecting, it's the best thing for my family and I. So they will go on this, and I don't think that it makes it any better to use a plastic liner. It's all plastic. Even food safe plastics, I'm not quite sure about, but this is what I've chosen. This is 15 inches in diameter, and it's a pretty big container. This should house the blueberry plants just fine. And then what we may have to do at the end of the season, you know, when it starts to freeze, we may just need to bring these in, or because I'm not even certain how it would be if we wrap them for the winter. I'm not sure at this point, but I do have a grow tent. Thank goodness, a new purchase for me. I have a grow tent in the basement, and I plan to put the blueberries in the grow tent as soon as I finish potting them. The temperatures in Chicagoland are still up and down. On Saturday, the temperature was 76. Today, the high is 44. So I'm in the process of trying to harden off a couple other things that I need to plant, trying to pay attention to this weather in this new zone of mine, just to make sure that I have everything as good as I can have it before planting my onions, my leeks, and my shallots out. So I did have those plants out yesterday, but the temperatures here they're just up and down. So at this point, I won't put the blueberry plants out on the patio. They will stay inside in the grow tent until I feel more certain that we won't dip below 20. So the next thing I'm going to add here will be the pine bark. We have 2 plants to plant. So what I'm going to do is turn half of the soil over into the second container. That will give me a little more room for kind of, mixing up the soil, making sure that we have a really good mix. And then as needed, we'll add other portions of our mix to the mixes. Do keep in mind when you're doing your initial soil mix for your blueberries that blueberries like moisture. So they don't like to be waterlogged, of course. So it has to be a well-draining container, but they do not like to be dry. So as you're mixing your soil mixture, before you plant your blueberries, you want to make sure that you get your soil moist before planting. And it's just that everything that we're using, with the exception of the compost, is so dry. The peat moss is super dry. So you just want to make sure that everything is moist before planting. And we are almost at the point where we've gotten everything stirred in really well. I have a little more compost to mix in, and then we'll move to the next step. And so we are adding in our pine bark. The pine bark will provide another acidic component, but it has to break down in order to deliver that acidity to the soil. And so the pine bark will slowly break down. To ensure that we have enough acidity in the soil, we will also add a soil acidifier. So I picked one up from Espoma, and we'll add the required amount to that. Okay. I used to have a child's swimming pool that I would mix my dirt up in, but it was damaged and I no longer have it. But I think this summer I'll pop into a couple yard sales. I think the last one I got was $5 at a yard sale. I'm always looking for ways to make purchases that are not very expensive. Most of the things that we need in the garden, it's not like this stuff is going to stay clean and pretty. So I'm all for buying used things or repurposing things that I can use in the garden. Okay. So I'm going to mix the other one up, and then we'll be just about ready to plant. So my soil mixture was looking a little low, so I just added in the same parts that I added in originally. So I added in a little more peat moss, 2 parts, added in 1 part compost, and really when I added in the pine bark, I added in a little more than 1 part pine bark. So I didn't add in more of that. And this should start to bring it closer to the top. I was fortunate enough to pick up the grow tent that I was speaking about earlier. So I was looking for a wheelbarrow on Facebook Marketplace. So when we left Virginia, the truck is full, and we realized we have a couple items from the backyard that we did not load. And one of those things was a deck box that that had my green stalk covers in it. So I'm gonna have to replace those, and I hate to, but I'm gonna have to replace those. But we also left our cobalt wheelbarrow. So we were trying to find one on Marketplace. And guess what pops up? A grow tent. A large grow tent. It's either 4 by 4 feet or 5 by 5 feet. And it was only $60. And the nice gentleman that I got it from actually he had been using it himself, but he told me now he's growing outdoors. But he also had the ducts for it, the fan, and he just was so kind, and he brought a second grow tent, which is a smaller one. I believe he said it's 24 by 24. So my husband put the larger one up. And so we've yet to put the small one up, but we'll probably get that put up next weekend. And he was just so kind, and he even brought me a few products. And just, there are just so many kind people in the world. And kindness is best when you don't expect it. So that means I have a grow tent. I've always wanted one. And I try to prioritize what I need. And even though I've always wanted one, I had never gotten to the point of putting the money aside to buy one. So I'm very grateful that now I have one. I'm going to add the rest of the manure. So this weekend, my husband and I went to a local nursery that was having this huge sale. So from what we understand by some of the people that were there, waiting in line to get in, was that this is a sale that they have once a year, and they have rock bottom prices, right? So last week, my husband went in, he stopped by just to pick me up some Happy Frog. So the Happy Frog there, I got some from there last year. It was about $22 for 2 cubic feet. It's a very good potting mix. I love it. And I think it's worth every penny. That and a couple other potting soils I think are just great. But one of the customers in the store told him that he should wait for this big sale, right? So we go back for the sale, and the customer was nice enough to tell us that there would be a long line, so come early. So we're thinking, what kind of sale is this? This must really be a good sale. So my husband also wanted to pick up a product called Meal Organite, which I'm not familiar with, but he uses it for the grass. And so this is normally about $20 a bag, and it was on sale for $7.99, something like that. But it was just a one-day sale. And I thought, what are all of these people in line here to get? How about everyone had that in their cart? So the salesperson was telling me that it's really good for vegetables too. So are you using that? Is that a product that you have used in your garden, in your vegetable garden before? I'd love to know whether or not that's something that my garden would benefit from. I'm going to do a little research on it just to find out whether or not it's something that would work for me. Okay, this one's all mixed up. I'm going to mix the other one up and grab the blueberry plants. Okay, we've got everything mixed very well. I also moisten our soil. And then, of course, after I put the blueberry plants in here, I will add a little more water, but I wanted to make sure that the soil was moistened all the way through, and it is. So the next thing we need to do is to add the soil acidifier, and this is by Espoma, and they are recommending 1.5 cups for new plants. So I'm going to add 1.5 cups to both of these planters. And after that, there's nothing left to do but put the blueberry plants in. I was not able to put my hands on my 1 cup measuring cup, my garden measuring tool. So I am gonna eyeball this using this. This looks a little bit under a cup to me. And so I'm gonna use that. And then I'll see about unpacking the rest of my garden things. So it says 1.5 cups. So that's about 1 cup. And that's about 1/2. A little more than that. Okay. And for the next one, and 1/2. And then we're going to mix that in good. Definitely more. Okay. Let's say that does it. And these soil acidifiers, they're good for anything like your blueberries, your hydrangeas. So if you have other plants that require the soil to be more acid based, then you can probably use that. Just like the product that I bought, it actually has directions for hydrangeas, blueberries, and the like. So we're gonna mix that in really well. I am going to leave a little space at the top. I know you can see that that's not absolutely full because I will put pine nuggets on the top, on the very top. And under that, I'm going to put a layer of compost. And I'll get that all mixed in. You know, I spent the morning calling around trying to find a plumber to come out and put a water deduct meter on, or deduct water meter. I don't know if you guys have ever heard of that. Have you ever heard of that before? If you're in Chicago and you've heard of that and you know someone who knows how to do that, this will be our second plumber coming out to look at the deduct meter. So I'd never heard of a deduct water meter until we were in Virginia. And when we first arrived to Virginia and springtime came and it was, time for us to water the lawn and then the garden was starting, we found that our water bill was $500. And we thought, $500? What on earth did we do? How much water did we use? We didn't realize that some places actually charge you not only to take the water in, but they charge you to return it to the sewer, right? I think that's every place charges for that. But what the deduct water meter does, it actually looks at the water that you're not returning to the sewer. And if you have one of these meters, then you're not paying for the water that goes into your garden or goes for any purpose at all, which does not entail it going back into the sewer. And so when we came here, I was just reading about our area's requirements and what they had. They also recommended buy one of these meters. So we purchased the meter from them, but we've been having just a little difficulty finding someone who knows what it is and knows how to put it in. So I'm hoping that this company that I talked to this morning, and it sounds like they know what they're talking about, that they'll be able to put one in. Because even though I'll be using the rain barrels this year, I will have to use the water. And we'll also have to use water that doesn't return to the sewer because we'll be watering our grass. So if that's something that you've never heard of, you think that you may be able to have it in your area and it would be something to decrease your water bill, look into it. Deduct meter, DEDUCT. Okay, we're ready. Let's get those blueberry plants. I will go in or go back and make labels for the blueberries. I'll have to go back and check my order to see what the name of this blueberry is. One of the blueberries came with a tag. So the North Country blueberry, this one came with a tag. So that's really convenient. I don't have to, to do anything with that. But this one did not come with a tag. So, a part of me is hoping I got the right thing for one. But I'll go, oh my goodness. Guys, it did come with a tag. Sorry, Stark Brothers. This one is for this second one here. So this is North Blueberry. This one is North Country Blueberry. Thank you, Stark Brothers. I sure appreciate that. I just didn't plan on doing that, and you guys know how I feel about labels. Gotta have your label. Gotta have your labels. All right, both are planted, and I'm going to hook up a set of grow lights, put these in the area where my other plants are growing until I can get some help to get them down into the grow tent. Now, the Stark Brothers did not give a recommendation for the soil mixture. They just simply said that it needs to be well draining soil, but they didn't give like recommendations on how you should mix your soil, what you should put in your soil. None of that. So I've just done a little research to find out what is a good acidic soil. That's where I came up with this. So I did a little research on my own to see what mixture of products would give me an acidic soil that was appropriate for blueberries. And that is how I came up with this mixture. So let's pray it's the right one for these blueberries. I'm excited about getting blueberries and wait until you see that lemon blueberry cake. Woo! Okay, so I chose these blueberry plants for this climate, for a northern climate where the temperatures come down quite a bit. I am not 100% positive how they will do outside in the winter, even under cover. So I wanted something that I could put in containers that I could bring indoors over winter, put into the grow tent, and hope they would be okay. So I'm praying that this is it. If I were putting these in the ground, I wouldn't worry about it at all. But they were also advertised as patio container blueberries. So I'm hoping that we're doing pretty good. Again, I got these from Stark Brothers. I have bought things from them in the past, and I've always been really happy with my purchase from them. Oh yeah, that's coming out nice. So we're gonna make sure. Some of these bark pieces were pretty large. I've tried to break up quite a bit of it. And I know over time that it'll break down. It'll take longer to break down, but I know that it will break down. Okay. Now, in the past, I have grown blueberries out on my deck before. It's been a while though. It's been quite a while. And remember, I am going to add a layer of compost to the top. I'm excited about having blueberries. I love blueberries. I have quite a few recipes that I can use with some really good blueberries. The challenge with berries and making things with berries are that the berries in the store are usually tasteless. So, I mean, when I was living in North Carolina, I would go to the strawberry farms, to get berries every year and make my strawberry cake with that. It is just nothing like that flavor of a berry that is picked when it is ripe. So I'm hoping, because I have a recipe for a lemon blueberry cake, which we will definitely make. And so I'm hoping to get some decent berries. Okay. I think that looks great. All right, let's plant the second one. And then remember, we're going to water this again. In about a week or two, I'm going to start to harden them off, as long as the temperatures don't drop below 20. So today's high is 44. I'll look and see what the temperatures are forecasted for next week. But as long as they look like they're doing well in the grow tent, I won't bother them. And then as soon as those temperatures are like above 40 consistently, I'll start to harden these off and then transfer them outside to the deck. So thank you so much for joining me today. As always, I appreciate you and I appreciate your time. Remember, find your joy. Mine is gardening and retirement. Bye.